Hello and welcome back to Tachikawa. You are listening to Sakamichi Nights. My name is Matthew Boynton, and I'm joined, as always, by Daniel Bellamy. How are you today, Daniel?
I'm good. Been tubing, and I'm relaxed. Did some tubing over the weekend, and
Your voice sounds different than usual,
I
Daniel.
think I contracted a little throat bacterial infection from the Tama River where I was tubing, and
You've
so
been tubing
I sound
too
a little
hard.
different. I've been
You've
tubing
been
too
tubing
hard,
too hard, and it's
too
injured your
long.
throat.
Yeah.
Let's drop this absurd charade. I'm joined today not by Daniel Bellamy, but by Sakamichi Nights superfan Casey of Beanpodville. Welcome to the pantheon of superfans, Casey.
Thank you, Matthew, for having me, and thank you for inducting me into the pantheon. But I have to say, what I really want is, guest status.
Oh, that one is a little bit further away from you.
Okay.
You're going to have to come back a few more times for that. But,
All right.
well, let's never say never. This is the pantheon of superfans is another idea that I have shamelessly ripped off from you. Do you want to explain the superfan concept that you have on your
Yeah.
wonderful podcast, The Bean Pod?
Yeah. I have a wonderful podcast called The Bean Pod, and I guess it's probably like the source pod for Sakamichi Nights because you slowly have stolen almost everything I do on the Bean Pod.
I stole the word update from you.
Yeah, specifically weather update, and you shamelessly spun that off into the brewery update. So but it's flattery as far as I'm concerned, Matthew. What was the question?
So
Oh,
you've recently started inducting listeners into the Beanpod superfan
that's
pantheon.
right.
Is that
That's
right?
right. Yes.
Uh, and I was very honoured to join that pantheon myself. How many members are there
Oh,
in this elite group now?
there must be about 6 or 7, I would say. There was a long time super fan, super fan Julian. He's renowned as a super fan. And then I just realized, there are more super fans out there that deserve recognition. And so I've decided to just start sort of willy nilly inducting super fans. So the sort of celebrity status of it has worn off a little bit. It's being diluted slightly, but I
So
think it's a
obviously,
gesture.
Sakamichi superfan status means that you get to appear on the podcast.
Hmm.
What benefits do Beanpod superfans gain?
Nothing really, other than just holding that in their hearts that they've dedicated themselves to something.
It's just the honor, then.
Yeah,
We're all playing for the honor.
yeah.
Um, well, thank you for subbing in today. Daniel Bellamy is out, unfortunately, but lucky listeners, you get to spend some time with me and Casey instead. If you haven't ever listened to the Bean Pod, where have you been? What have you been doing?
For real.
You should, yeah, you should listen to this podcast. And one of the things that I particularly enjoy about it is that every week Casey will air some grievances that he has. He will talk about something that he doesn't like about his life or his family or frequently his children.
Mm.
Um, Wonderful that they are. Children can annoy us sometimes. So I thought we could start this episode by airing a personal grievance that I have with my children and seeing if it matches on to your experiences as well.
Okay, I'm ready
Um,
for this. Yes.
I cook dinner quite a lot in my house, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. I cook dinner, and tonight I tried to make something quite healthy. So I made a shabu shabu salad for dinner.
Mhm.
You ever make a shabu shabu salad?
I've never made one personally, but that's one of my wife's go-to menu options.
Great. So you're
Yeah,
familiar with the concept then. It's kind
I
of
am.
lettuce and Japanese watercress, maybe some tomato, some cucumber, and then some like thin strips of poached pork over the top, together with like a sesame and soy sauce kind
Hmm.
of dressing, right? That
Correct.
sounds pretty good to me. It's healthy, it's got protein, low
Hmm.
carbs. For some reason, my kids always, whenever they're presented with any meal, will eat it one component part at a time. So I was watching my son, who's 5, eat this, and the first thing he did was pick off and eat all of the meat. And the
Okay.
second thing he did was pick off and eat all of the tomatoes. And
Mm.
then he's left with a plate of lettuce and watercress. And he's like, well, I don't want to eat this. This looks rubbish. Is this something that maps with your experience?
Well, I have to say my wife's recipe is a little different. She uses a lot of bean sprouts
Okay.
and some
Sticking
other
with the
stuff.
bean theme.
There. Yes, of course. I insist that at least there's one bean component to every meal that passes through the lips of my family. Um, but so there aren't any real like lettuce components. Maybe there's cabbage or something in it. Um, but that's one dish where the children scarf it down properly with all components, mixed into one bite.
That's good, man. That's the goal. Yes, I was
Mhm.
explaining to my son, like you've done this to yourself. You've committed a rookie error here by eating
Right.
all the meat parts and the tomato parts first. You've
Yeah.
left yourself with a big bowl of lettuce that you now have to eat by itself.
It's interesting. He likes tomatoes, but lettuce is something he doesn't like because I think like for kids, tomatoes are a sort of more disgusting vegetable than lettuce.
Yeah, man. I when I was young, I hated tomatoes,
Mm.
but my kids both absolutely love them. If I put a dish of chopped up cucumbers and mini tomatoes on the table, they
Hmm.
will eat all of that before they
Hmm.
even start on their regular dinner.
Can I air a grievance in a similar
Absolutely. I
vein?
was certainly
Um,
hoping that you would.
okay. My younger son loves tomatoes, but the way he eats them is he'll nibble like a hole in the side of the tomato, like a mini tomato, and then he'll just like suck all the innards out of it and
That
like
that sounds
squeeze it, and it's just like, would you just put the thing in your mouth and eat it?
that
And then
sounds fairly demented.
yeah, and then he does, something similar with, like, cucumber sticks. He'll, like, eat the fleshy part, like, down to the skin, and then he'll eat the skin, and it's just so annoying the way he eats it that I wish he would just, take a bite. I tell him,
This is
"Take a bite like a normal human being."
this is something that has maybe come up on your pod as well. That the sounds of other people eating are something that you don't particularly enjoy, right? So I could see you, especially not enjoying
Mm.
somebody just sucking the inside out of a mini tomato.
Yeah. I To his credit, it's not loud.
Okay,
And it's not the in this case, it's not the sound of the eating, it's the technique that
it's
drives me nuts.
it's the visuals of it.
Yeah, yep.
We talked about this the other week, where I mentioned that my daughter likes to, whenever she has a sausage, she'll eat the
Oh, yeah.
skin of the sausage first and then the meat part,
Yeah.
which is kind of a similar thing. I guess a lot of kids do have slightly unusual eating habits.
Mm.
Do you remember when you were young? Was there anything that you ate in a slightly unusual manner?
Oh, I can't think of anything offhand. Sorry to be a deficient podcast guest, but, I think I was pretty straight-laced with my eating. Big surprise.
That's okay. That's part of the Sakamichi experience. Is me throwing real curveball questions at the
Yeah,
co-host.
you
So
got me there.
you're fulfilling the Dan Bellamy part by going, yeah, actually, I don't know. That's a slightly strange
Yeah.
question. I don't know why you would ask me that, Matthew.
Do your kids like shrimp?
Yes, they do. I think
Okay.
we would only have them in the house peeled. I guess. Like I don't
Mhm.
know if they've ever been confronted with an unpeeled shrimp or a non-deveined shrimp.
Right, right, right.
But they love like shrimp tempura and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you this question because we were at Sushiro uh, last week, I think,
Right,
and the tomato sucking son also likes the big like steamed shrimp, or nigiri or whatever it is, which comes with the just the tail,
right.
still attached to the meat. And the first thing he does is pull that off and eat it.
He eats the tail
Eats
first.
the tail, yeah. How does that behavior strike you?
I I don't know. I wouldn't want to do it myself. I
Mm,
applaud his commitment to zero waste,
mhm.
but I'd be worried about like it's just cartilage or something, isn't it? I'd be worried about it getting stuck in my throat, or
Yeah, I think,
it's not a
know
pleasant texture.
no, you gotta chew it up for sure,
Hmm. Do you eat the
but,
tail first?
I don't eat the tail at all. I
Okay.
dispose of it. I'm not
Well,
zero waste, unfortunately.
let's continue stealing segments from the Bean Pod. I'm going to give a
Okay.
quick, very quick brewery update.
Mm.
The big news this week is that we have had an air conditioner installed
Oh,
in the brew house at
congratulations.
last.
I know the last few episodes that have been full of anticipation, for
It has
the
been absolutely unbearable back there. But they installed it yesterday. When I left last night, the brewery was 38 degrees, according
Mhm.
to the thermometer on the wall. When I arrived this morning, it was 19 degrees in there, which is, if anything, a little bit
Wow.
too cold.
Oh, can I
But
ask
it's
a
wonderful.
question?
Oh, of
Um,
course.
does and I've been thinking about this, as I listened to your last few episodes, and you were talking about the air conditioner. Does the ambient air temperature affect fermentation or anything like that? Or, are all your sort of brewery vessels, what are those called? The tanks.
The
Uh,
tanks.
are those like, do they have their own sort of temperature regulating systems in them?
Yeah, that's a good question. It doesn't affect it directly because the tanks have what's called like a jacket of
Okay.
antifreeze that wrap around them and that keep them at the temperature that we set them at. But
Okay.
then that antifreeze is kind of piped around the brewery in these
Mhm.
pipes that run up by the ceiling. So if the ambient temperature there is 38 degrees, then that antifreeze is moving through 38-degree air all the time,
Mhm.
and it's quite a long pipe, so it's basically just a big long heat exchanger, and it's bringing
Right.
all that heat back to the chiller that then has
Mhm.
to work extra hard to chill it down, and so we have to spend more on our electricity bill
Mhm.
to run this chiller than we normally would, and the chiller has to work extra hard. We also have like compressors on top of the fridge, which do not like working in high temperatures. So
Okay.
um, I think all in all, installing an air conditioner in there is probably going to reduce our energy consumption and make us a slightly more eco-friendly brewery. Just before the Twitter mob come for me, um, this is going to make us more green installing the air conditioner in there.
Okay. Cool. Congratulations.
Good question. But yeah, it's lovely in there. We've yet to put it to the full test, which will
Mhm.
be a brew day. But so far, it is doing a marvelous job. Air conditioning, I can't recommend it highly enough. Here's a
Mm.
question for you.
Okay.
You have said before that you enjoy the heat of the summer.
Yes.
Do you sleep with the air conditioner on?
Certainly. I like the heat when I'm out in it, but when it's time to sleep, I need a good 24 degrees to have any chance of falling asleep.
Having a light blanket in there, is that
Yeah.
how cold you want it?
Yeah. I like to, like during the winter, I like to sleep, with the windows cracked open and a big heavy blanket. And in the summer, I like to sleep with the air conditioner pumping away and a nice light blanket.
I tell you, I like the windows open sleeping in the winter as well. I
Mm.
like being warm in the snug bed when the air outside is cold.
Yeah.
But we don't have an air conditioner in our bedroom. So
Oh.
at the moment, winter, it's just fan at the foot of the bed,
Hmm.
windows open, and no blanket at all. So if you're planning to come in and murder me in my sleep, there will be absolutely nothing protecting me. I'm
Okay.
right there.
Like
Here I
you'll,
am, mosquitoes. Come and get me.
can you actually sleep in this heat with just a fan?
Usually
Yeah.
yes. We live down by the river, so it gets cool
Okay.
enough, and I'm sure you have a lot of green around you as well, right?
Mm.
So that helps to keep the heat down. But I think if we lived in central Tokyo, in the heat island, it would be pretty unbearable up there.
Yeah. Is your bedroom on the first floor or second floor?
It's upstairs, yeah, so
Okay.
we get a bit more of a breeze.
Hmm.
And as I say, we're by the river, which helps. Although that
Right.
doesn't help with the mosquito situation.
Hmm. Yeah, our bedroom's on the second floor, and it gets really hot during the day up there.
Hmm.
Just heat rises, and so yeah, even with the windows open, it doesn't make much of a difference. So air conditioner it is. Apologies.
We're not just here to talk about air conditioners, though, are we? We are here to celebrate beer. And we are celebrating a very, very special beer this week because it was the only one that was available to both of us at short notice. Casey, do you want to tell us what the very special beer we're going to be celebrating this week is?
Yeah, I just want to mention to the listeners that you contacted me about 2 hours ago to invite me onto the podcast tonight, and
It
I
was
said
about 3 hours ago.
3 hours. Okay. Anyway, I was home already for the night, and I said I'd love to join, but I only have one beer in my fridge, and
And
that
what is
is
that beer?
the beer that people bring to your house when you have a barbecue, and then it sits in the fridge for months because you don't actually want to drink it. It is the one and only Asahi Super Dry.
The Silver Bullet, Japan's most popular beer, I would probably say. I haven't researched that, but in terms of volume sold, I'm going to guess that this is Japan's most popular beer. It's a light lager. It is marketed as being extremely light. That's the whole point of Asahi Super
Mm.
Dry, right? It is the lightest, the driest, the most flavorless of all possible beers. So why don't we crack open a couple of cans and see what we make of this beer? Okay, we're back. I'm looking at my can right now. This is actually a branded can, official beer of the Rugby World Cup France 2023. Is your one branded as well?
No, I have
The classic.
the classic. They just released new cans recently, right?
I think this might be them. The Rugby World Cup is starting soon, I suppose. So maybe that's what these are celebrating.
I feel like this looks like the old style can to me because I
Do you want to
remember that
check the bottom? See
I
what the
just
date
did.
on the bottom is?
It's February 2024, so it's got to be fairly new. But I thought that like the new cans they came out with were like very unappealing visually, maybe to
Well,
match the flavor of the beer.
well, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. What
Okay.
did you dislike? What was so unappealing to you about the new cans?
Um, just like the font was, the whole design was just uninspired. Like this can, at least it's sort of iconic. That it wasn't broken, yet they decided to try and fix it, and they just they made questionable design choices. As
Hmm.
far as I can't even remember what the can itself actually looks like, but
Yeah, it's an absolute classic, isn't it? It's something that you will see on a shelf in just about any grocery store, konbini, or supermarket in Japan. Right? It's
yeah.
incredibly widespread. It's an all silver can with red and black writing on it. Like you say, instantly recognizable. And I don't know. I feel like the game for cans since the coming of craft beer to Japan has been raised so much though that maybe they feel they need to be competing in that space rather than in the kind of fast moving consumer product space
Mm,
that they're currently existing in. Do you think that's what
yeah,
they were going for?
feeling the heat maybe. I'm looking at a picture of the redesigned can, and it's got like, I guess the font is the same, but it has like this, like half of the can is like looks like beer.
Oh
It's like
right.
golden, and then the top is meant to look like it's got like a head on it of foam, and it's just I don't know. It disagrees with me.
They've really been changing things up then.
Yeah.
If they are using gold instead of just silver on the can.
Mm,
I just want to, before we get into it, I want to read the list of ingredients here. Maybe you can read along with me on the
okay.
side. Obviously, these are listed in order of weight. They start malt, which comes from overseas. It's overseas and domestic malt they use. Then hops, then rice, then cornstarch. Those are the ingredients here. So we're looking at a very, very light and dry beer with all of that starch in here. What are your. This cannot be the first can of Asahi Super Dry that you've ever drunk, and it absolutely isn't the first one that I've ever drunk. So it's
Certainly not.
it's hard to come to this with a fresh palate and say what it tastes like because it's so wound up with, how long have you been living in Japan?
19 years.
Like 19 years of experience of drinking this
Yeah.
beer and all the different places you've been drinking it and the people
Hmm.
you've been drinking it with. But let's just try to go for a completely blank slate here. Imagine you've never tasted this before. What does Asahi Super Dry taste like?
I'm getting the cornstarch really stands out to me. Like there's like a corn flavor to it,
Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
and I can like already anticipate the hangover I'm gonna have after drinking like 8 of these things
Okay.
because they do
Uh,
go down easy because it is so light.
that's true. That's true. And it's
Um,
designed to be drunk very, very cold on a
mhm,
hot summer's day like today, I suppose.
right. I will say, I mean, I don't like this beer very much, especially since I've started enjoying craft beers, you know, more and more recently. But like, if you're like in an izakaya and you get like a draft Asahi Super Dry in a frosted glass, that's like not horrible.
Again, it's all about the setting, isn't
Mm,
it? And we talk about that sometimes on the pod that like your enjoyment of beer comes down. Of course, the quality of the beer in the glass is really important, but it also
mhm,
comes down to who you're with, what you're doing, what kind of mood you're in. Like, did you have a
right.
good day or not? All of those things can really influence your enjoyment of it. And you're right that a smoky yakitori place in the evening. It's been a hot, long day, but now you're relaxing with some friends or some coworkers. That's just a fun situation. So
Hmm.
no matter what you were drinking, it's probably going to taste pretty good in that
Right.
moment.
Right.
You're pulling out the cornstarch. I agree with you. I can definitely get a bit of corn in this. It does list hops as one of the ingredients, though. Are you getting a big hop character from the beer?
When I smell this beer and when I drink it, I detect zero hops
Right. It,
whatsoever.
it's definitely bitter, right? It's got a bit
Hmm.
of bitterness, which is going to come from some kind of hop addition. But um, like you say, you've been getting into craft beers recently. I'm guessing that's hazy IPAs and double hazy
Right.
IPAs
Right.
and that
Right.
kind of thing. That's all about the hops, and you're looking
Hmm.
at some incredibly aromatic or expressive or flavorful variety of hops. I'm really not getting anything from this. There is no character to it. There's just bitterness in there.
Yeah. Maybe my sense of smell has been blown out by too many West Coast brewing double dry hopped IPA hazy IPAs or something. But yeah, there's nothing there.
That should be enhancing your palate. You should be able to sniff out all the delicate variations in hops. But yes, I'm not picking out really any
Mm.
delicate variations in this.
Maybe that's
Um,
why I don't like it because I like when you like crack open a beer and it's like really skunky, hoppy, um, in your face sort of aroma and
is that the kind
flavor.
that's the kind of hop character that you would go for? Something
Yeah.
skunky and dank,
Hmm.
that kind of thing, rather than the pineapple or the mango, the kind of sweeter fruits.
Well, I do like those as well. I have to say.
Mm. But there is some hop character there, right, to all of
Yeah.
those beers, and you can, as the beer warms up, as it gets slightly flatter in the glass, that expression will develop as well, right, and you'll get different bits of the character. Um, I think the amazing thing about Asahi Super Dry, the absolutely incredible thing, is how consistent it is. Like it is just totally fungible. You could pick up a can anywhere in the country
Mhm.
and store it under your oven for 6 months, put it in the fridge, and it's going to taste the same, basically, right? And that is an achievement, right? That's an industrial achievement. It's
Mm.
incredible how they're able to produce this product from natural ingredients to be so consistent. But we are looking for maybe a bit of variation when we buy beers these days.
Yeah, agreed.
Not to say that it doesn't have its place though. And you've already started to set quite a scene. So
Mm.
why do we move on to pairings? And I thought that as
Okay.
this is a very special episode, we're inducting the first ever super fan into an actual episode of Sakamichi Nights. Why don't we run the full gauntlet of pairings?
Oh, we're
We'll
not even
go
using the die.
we're
We're
not even
going.
going to use the die.
Okay.
We're going to go 1 to 8, and I want you to
Okay.
paint me an absolute picture of where you would be enjoying this beer.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's start with food or cuisine. So, what are you going to be eating whilst you're enjoying this beer?
Okay. I'm going with the aforementioned yakitori.
All right. For any non-Japanese residents in the audience, do you want to explain a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, I mean the food itself is various meats and vegetables on a stick cooked
Hmm.
over hot charcoal. And then the usually if you go to like an izakaya or a yakitori shop, you know, the chef or master will be behind the counter, sort of just with like an assembly line of various yakitori dishes that the customers have ordered. So it's a very atmospheric place.
It is very atmospheric. I've seen in big camera that you can get like a little electric yakitori grill to cook it at
Oh.
home. I cannot imagine a situation where I would want to do that. Right? It's all about the setting and the
Hmm.
atmosphere that you're eating it in. Right? Who
Yeah.
on earth, what kind of maniac would cook yakitori at home? Um,
I mean,
so
if
yeah,
you're
when we
barbecuing it, that's acceptable, but
yes, because you're outside with friends and you're getting the
right,
charcoal character, I suppose. But it's still just not quite the same, right? When
right,
a
right,
lot
right.
of people imagine Japanese culture, they imagine something that's quite genteel and
Mm,
refined, but that's not really the scene in a yakitori restaurant, is it? Like
no.
everyone's yelling,
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
hot, it's sweaty, people are bumping into each other, they're having
Hmm.
spontaneous conversations. It's a very different scene than a Kyoto temple or something like that.
Right, right. We used to go to this place where you're like sitting on tatami, and across from that was like a little elevated sort of floor, and there were like 4 or 5 tables. So you'd be up there with like a bunch of strangers. You'd have your own table, but right next to you would be uh, strangers, and then across from that was like the bar seating, and then behind the bar was the yakitori operation, and you're giving me nostalgic flashbacks to that right now.
And if you want something, you look at the bits of greasy paper that are pinned up around the walls of the restaurant, and you just
Yes.
yell it out at
Yep.
the master behind the grill. What kind of yakitori are you yelling out for in this situation?
Oh, okay. I like the butabara, the pork belly.
Right.
I like the sasami chicken with maybe some shiso and some ume sort of uh, ketchup-y type sauce on
Hmm.
it. I like the aspara bacon.
That's
I,
extremely good.
I like the quail eggs, the little uzura.
Okay, that's
Um,
good.
yeah, I mean those are probably my go-tos.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
I was at a yakitori place the other day, and we ordered some aspada bacon. Hold the aspada. Just give me a strip of bacon on this stick and grill it up for
Nice.
me.
Yeah.
One of the very atmospheric thing about a lot of these yakitori places is, and this is quite common in a certain kind of Japanese restaurant, there will be at least one TV in there that will be on.
Okay.
That's the second part of our pairings.
Mm.
What TV show or movie would you like to be? Yes, a movie show. What movie show would you like to be watching as you are eating this yakitori and drinking some Asahi Super Dry?
Okay. Am I still in the restaurant?
We're painting the whole scene here. Yeah, this is all
Okay.
one scene.
Okay. Um, all right. If there has to be a screen of some sort, throw some sports on there, some baseball, um, probably baseball because that requires minimal attention, and I'm going to be having various drunken conversations. So I don't want to watch something fast paced. Maybe some golf. That's easy enough to sort of check in with once in a while. But what I really want to be watching, Matthew,
Okay.
is I want to be sitting at the bar watching the guy cook the food because
All right.
I love watching chefs ply their trade.
So maybe if you're far away, some kind of security camera footage of the chef
Oh yeah,
plying
yeah,
his trade.
exactly. Yeah.
You when you call out your order, you can see him reach
Hmm.
into the fridge under the grill and pull out your negima or your sasami or
Yes,
something.
yes. Yeah, that would work
Um,
as well.
Baseball is the classic option. Obviously,
Hmm.
that's what's usually showing in most of these, and I agree that it's a good choice because you don't have to pay attention to it. It's a
Hmm.
very boring and slow paced sport. I agree with you there about that. What music would be playing in this place?
All right, if I'm in a Japanese sort of izakaya yakitoriya, I want some shamisen music sort of plunking away in the background,
Okay, like contemporary shamisen, or are we talking more classical shamisen here?
like the classical stuff. I don't know much about the genre, but the stuff I hear on the radio, where it's like the bow, bow, bow. Every once in a while, there's someone in the background just yelling, kind of going like, "Ah, ah," and then maybe there's like an odd drum beat here and there.
Okay, it does
Yeah.
sound like you're describing the Seinfeld theme tune, but I think I
Okay.
understand what you're talking about.
That's a bass line though, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Very atmospheric.
Hmm.
There often isn't music playing in Japanese izakayas,
Mm.
though, right? Like, if you go to like more modern style bars, they might be playing something. But in a lot of kind of these classic yakitori joints or izakayas, they don't play music. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because the real music is the hum of inebriated conversation
Right.
that is going on all around you.
We play music in our bar, um, and you have to kind of adapt the the energy of the music to the energy
Hmm.
of the bar. Like if it's a lot
Mm.
of people
Right, right.
really high key and having a good time, you have to play some upbeat music. If it's people just chilling out, looking at their phones, maybe you do something a bit more chilled out.
Hmm.
And you have to adapt the volume as well, right? And my theory is that the music provides kind of zones of privacy for each table where you
Hmm.
can hear what the person opposite you is saying, but you are
Right.
not being overwhelmed, or you can't hear what the people at the next table are saying, or
Hmm.
maybe you feel like you can't be heard throughout the bar. Like I
Right,
don't
right.
like when I'm in a bar and I'm having a loud conversation and suddenly the music goes quiet and everyone hears the raunchy punchline to my terrible joke that I've just been
Right,
telling.
right.
Um, so maybe because these places are trying to foster communication between the
Mhm.
customers, that's why they don't play loud music, because then people wouldn't be able to hear what people around them were saying. Think there's anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, they're thinking back to the place that I was describing earlier. Like, if you're there at like 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, it's just loud because
Right.
people are shouty. And I mean, it wasn't even that big, but there was just like a buzz to the sort of atmosphere. Um, so I don't think music was even necessary.
Yeah, maybe even if it was playing, nobody would be able to hear it. So
Right,
what's the point in investing in a sound system
right.
when it's not going to go to any use?
That's
Um,
why I like the shamisen music idea because it's like it's there, but it's just sort of in the background. If there's a
right.
lull in noise, you'll be able to hear it, but it's not distracting. And uh, yeah,
Similar to
so
the baseball, maybe.
yeah,
Some places just have the TV turned up, and that's the music. It's the baseball commentary. Um,
that's not ideal for me.
the next point on the list of
Mm,
pairings might be difficult to cram into this scene because it
okay,
is number 4, video game. Now,
video games.
do you
Okay,
play video games?
I do not play video games,
So this one's going
but
to be tricky then. But
I mean I have played video games, so I'll draw from my limited reservoir of video game experience. I'm gonna imagine, like halfway through the night, I've had 6 Asahi Super Dries, and I've yet to break the seal. And so while I'm in there at the urinal, I'm gonna whip out my phone and I'm gonna play a little Tetris,
Okay.
something I can go one-handed.
I think Tetris is a two-handed game. That's what I
Is
was
it?
going to ask you.
Okay.
Yeah, you got one hand to
Okay.
rotate the blocks and the other to move the blocks.
Okay. Okay. I'll play solitaire
Okay,
on my phone while I'm taking a 2.5 minute pee pee.
a game for a single person.
Yes,
Quite appropriate
with a
for,
single hand,
for toilet use.
going number one.
The next, let's move swiftly on from this.
Okay, I thought I
The
did
next
pretty good with that question.
that was pretty good. That was pretty good. But we're back from the toilet now. We're
Okay.
enjoying the izakaya. The next thing is location. So obviously we're in this Japanese
Hmm.
izakaya, but
Yes.
let's think about where in Japan you might like this to be situated,
Mm,
because Japan, land of contrasts, right?
mm,
It is
right.
quite different when you go from area to area. This is not a hugely homogenous country.
Hmm.
Where would you like this izakaya to be?
All right. Um, I'm going to imagine that this is like a nice hot summer day, hot summer night, and I have gorged myself on food and grog, and I want to go for a walk on my way
Okay.
home from this izakaya to sort of clear my mind, aid in digestion, and I want to walk on a moonlit night along the beach somewhere. So
Mm,
any beach that I'm imagining, not like a Kanto area beach, but more like sort of out in the countryside a bit, like a deserted beach with a footpath, so I don't have to take my shoes off and get all sandy.
mm.
Yeah, I
Is
want to walk
Japan?
along.
Yeah, I have to say I've lived in Kanto basically the whole time I've been here,
Mm.
and beaches aren't really something that I associate with Japan. Right? They're either covered in tetrapods,
Hmm.
or incredibly rocky, or there's a 15-meter strip of sand that has 10,000 people on it.
Mm.
Right? But
Right.
is that accurate? Am I missing out on some classic beaches in Japan?
I think I mean, there must be a lot of beautiful beaches in Japan. Around here, they're not. The beaches are nowhere near as crowded. Um, but there's also like often like a cycling or walking path that runs parallel to the beach.
Right.
Um, Maybe 100 meters from the coast, from where the waves lap upon the shore, and so you can like walk along that. You're right by the water. You can hear the waves, smell the salt air, but you can stay sort of clean, which I don't want to. I love going to the beach and getting sandy, but if on my walk home, my drunken walk home from the izakaya, I want to keep it simple. I don't want to get my shoes full of sand or anything like that. So
You don't want to have to hose pipe off your feet before you go back into your house.
exactly.
So the next thing on the pairing list is drinking companion. But why do we
Mm,
say that you and this companion are enjoying this night walk together
okay.
back to your accommodation? Who would you
Yeah.
like to be with you?
Um, I'm gonna choose my wife, because we're talking about our annoying children, and like we used to go to these sorts of places together before we had kids, and uh, I want to rekindle that fire,
Mm,
Matthew.
a
Um,
long romantic walk along the
yeah,
beach
yeah, all
after you've had
bloated and
12
drunk.
super
Yeah,
dries and a big plate of butabara.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Sounds pretty idyllic.
Hand in hand. Yeah.
The final item on the list here is wild card slash
Okay.
something else. So what is the one thing that is missing from this evening that would make it perfect?
Oh,
And try and keep it PG.
okay. This is not PG, but it's it's not X. I'm gonna take a big bong hit when I get home.
Okay, right. That's not the direction I was expecting that to go in.
Okay.
Can you elaborate?
Um, no.
I think you're drawing from Daniel Bellamy's Life of Crime here, where he
Yes,
admitted
I
on last week's episodes that he is a serial criminal.
mhm. Well, and I
So,
am going back to America next week, to
right,
Massachusetts, which is the land of legalized marijuana products. So maybe that's
that,
weighing on my mind as well.
that sounds like a very long beach walk. Then, in that case,
Yes.
hopefully you fueled up with plenty of yakitori and Asahi
Yeah.
super dries before walking 12,000 miles to Massachusetts.
Oh no, 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 no. You're misunderstanding me. The walk would be much shorter.
Right.
Yes.
That does sound very nice. That sounds very idyllic.
Thank you.
Thank you for walking us through that romantic evening scene.
Yeah.
There.
Are we gonna do your eight?
No, man, the,
Uh,
the people are tuning in to hear what you have to say,
okay.
not what I have to say. That
Okay.
was very good. Thank you. I wanted to ask you actually about this trip to America. As you
Mm,
know, I'm a Bean Pod super fan, so I've been tuning in every week, hearing updates about your upcoming trip. Um, Whenever I go back to the UK, which I have to say, it's not very often these days. The last time I was back
mm,
there was 2019. But whenever I do go back, I'm always emailing my mum in the weeks up to the trip
mm-hmm.
with shopping lists of things that I want to be in the fridge when I
Uh-huh.
arrive. It's mostly cheese, I will
Yeah,
say,
yeah, yeah.
cured meats, chocolate, basically everything unhealthy that is possible to have. What is your shopping list that you are going to be emailing ahead to Massachusetts, and how much marijuana does it include?
Okay. It's funny you asked me this because I was just talking to my mother earlier tonight, and she was asking me like, "What do you want me to have in the house when you get here?" And I was just like, "I don't know. I don't care. Like, we'll just go to the supermarket when I get there." Um, so I don't have, and I love going to the supermarket in the States because it's just crazy compared to Japan and probably compared to a lot of places, but just the size and the variety of everything. So, but the thing I always want waiting for me when I get home is pizza. That's like the traditional meal, the arrival meal is pizza and some kind of fancy beer that whatever my mother has decided to buy.
You're getting some shiso and some mackerel on that pizza.
Definitely not. That is a ridiculous suggestion. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to pizza. I like the
What's it going to be
cheese.
then?
I like the pepperoni. Pepperoni, that's my go-to.
Massive pizza waiting for you when you get in, and a few good
Yes.
beers. Well,
Yes, and if my brothers come through, a tin of marijuana gummies will be there as well.
sounds like you've got the evening all planned out. So it's just like, kids, here's a box of cherry tomatoes. Go wild. I'm gonna
Yeah,
be I'm gonna be
yeah.
here for a while.
I'll see you in 3 weeks. Your grandparents are gonna take care of you for a little while.
Sounds pretty good. That sounds like a good trip. The last time you were back, I think you enjoyed watching baseball, hanging
Mhm.
out, going to a bunch of different places. What are you looking forward to the most this trip?
Oh, it's such a cheesy answer, but just, like, seeing my family and, my friends, that's the big one because, I've still got a couple real tight friends back home, and we had an absolute blast, when I was there last year. Um, they One of my friends sells boats, um, so he always has a boat, and, uh, it's like a it's like a test driver boat or something, and so like he takes my kids and I out on his boat, and yeah, I'm looking forward to going to a Red Sox game. Um, and just you know what I'm really looking forward to.
Being high as a
I don't.
kite 24/7.
Well, it's usually an evening thing. I have to say, I'm not. I'm not. I'm out of practice, so I can't. need to ease myself back into it, you know? Um, but I love the fact that like baseball games and sporting events are on in the evening because the life of an American sports fan in Japan is watching sports in the morning if you want to watch it live. And I'm used to it, but it's very unnatural. So it's like you get your whole evening set out for you. You know, if like the Red Sox game starts at 6 in the evening or 7, then you're just popping those gummies, and your next 4 hours are laid out before you.
Hopping up
It's
on
perfect.
goofballs. Yeah, sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think one of the other things is that you watch it with people who are also enjoying it, right? It's often a
Yes.
solo pursuit in Japan, isn't it? So
Right,
you
right,
watch it
right,
at
right.
home by yourself in the morning,
Yeah.
but you can go to a bar
Right.
or a weed cafe if
Mhm.
that's what you choose and enjoy the sport
Mhm.
with other fans around you. That's
That's
quite a
right.
difference.
Yeah.
While I've been in Japan for not quite as long as you have, maybe 16 years now, I
Mhm.
think. So quite a lot of things in the UK have changed while I've been away.
Mhm.
And I remember one of the biggest changes was that Britain was quite an early adopter of self-service checkouts. I remember
Okay.
going back one time and basically everybody had switched over to these and
Mhm.
everybody else knew how to use them. And I'd
Mm.
never seen one before in my life and I had no idea how they worked. And so I looked like a complete fool, even though, I sound British and I probably look British as well.
Mm.
I'm there in the supermarket saying, please can somebody help me? I don't know how this thing works.
Right.
And I guess you could say that's kind of a moment of reverse culture shock, right?
Mm.
Going back to your country and finding that is moved on without you, or you have changed, in fact,
Mhm.
from your recent visit or up to this visit. Do you think there is going to be any reverse culture shock for you?
The thing that I always have to get used to is that um like American culture, you need and I might have said this on the Bean Pod before, but like you need this sort of like aggressiveness to just operate within that culture.
Right.
Um, like you need to be vocal and like in Japan, everything's so passive. Like you walk into a shop and people are like welcoming you to the shop and asking you what you need, and they're very like hands on and attentive. Whereas if you go to like a Dunkin' Donuts in Massachusetts, like it's like the two employees are like in the back, looking at their phones, and you're like, "Hey, I need some coffee or something." You need to like just be more aggressive, I guess, and proactive to get things done. Um,
You need to recalibrate your expectations, right? Because I know that
oh, for
in
sure, yeah.
Japan, if somebody comes up and starts talking to you in a public space, like
Mm.
red flags immediately start going off. Okay, this
Mm.
person is a weirdo, or they're going to try and cheat me, or something weird is going on here. This isn't something that happens all the time. Certainly not
Right.
in Tokyo. But in the UK or in America, that's quite a common occurrence. So you have
Yeah.
to kind of turn down that alarm bell
Mhm.
in a sense, don't you?
Yeah. A lot of times they are like just weirdos, but uh,
Yes,
but
there are
but
also
the,
weirdos.
but it takes me a couple days usually to sort of adapt to that. But I like it. Like once I'm used to it, I really enjoy that sort of element of the culture, that it's just more sort of engaging and a little bit chaotic, but like people are so friendly and um, yeah. So that's the thing I sort of deal with regularly when I go back. But when I went back last time, there was nothing that was really uh, too reverse culture shock inducing. Things were basically the same. It was actually a lot less like politically charged than I was expecting, and like things seemed pretty normal.
Yeah, I've only been to America once, and I think I only saw one guy got murdered, just the one. So it was
You saw,
pretty restrained compared to my expectations.
yeah, and you actually witnessed that, or just on the news?
Two guys ran out of a building fighting, and one of them picked up a big sign from the street and hit the other one over the back of the head with it and then ran off.
Jeez.
And then the guy who was on the floor, he didn't get up, but we
Mm.
had places to go, so we didn't hang around.
Wow, I've never even seen anything like that.
Clearly, you're hanging around in the wrong bars with the wrong
I guess
people.
so. Yeah. Matthew, I wanted to ask you if you've brewed anything since last week's episode.
The only thing that we have in the tank right now is a fresh batch of Shibasaki Session, but
Oh,
I can say that one is probably going to be ready, if not next week, then the week after. It's moving along nicely.
good, good.
August is big time for beer, though, so we are going to be doing a lot of brewing over the next few weeks, trying to cram it in between everything else that's going on. So stay tuned for more brewery updates and more new
Okay.
beers coming up.
Maybe I shouldn't ask this question, but are you after the Shibasaki session comes out? Are you going to do something new, or are you going to redo some of the previous beers that you've brewed, or would you rather not answer this question right now?
It's always a tricky one to answer, just in case anything goes wrong on the brew day and we end up making a beer that we didn't quite intend to make, and then we
Right.
had to pretend that that was the plan all along. But what I'll say is that we have one completely new beer coming. Actually, no, we have two completely new beers coming, and then we have two sort of next in a series beers coming. So we're going to
Mm,
be making the next version of our Berliner Weiss with different fruits this time, and we're going to be making the next version of the Haze Craze, which has different hops every time.
okay.
So busy times in the brewery, and then two completely
Nice.
new beers that nobody has drunk up until now. I will say that one of them is probably going to be in your dank and strong wheelhouse. I almost
Nice.
said weed house right then, but
Oh,
wheelhouse.
tainted your mind. If you were to brew a bean pod inspired beer,
Hmm.
what would that look like?
That's a good question. You have a forest garden, right,
Mm,
which provides you with lots of interesting fruits.
hmm.
So I think it would be fun to try to brew something that either evoked the forest or used some of those fruits in a beer. I know
Okay.
you're not a huge fan of sour beers, and it's
Hmm.
kind of hard to put fruit into something without having a bit of sourness
Right, right,
to
right.
balance it out. So maybe just something that evoked the forests of New England,
Oh,
uh, a a piney New England IPA. That might
you
be
know, a lot of
something.
the forests in New England are like maple forests where
Mm.
they make maple syrup. Maybe you could work that in somehow.
There are also. Have you ever had a Momiji Manju? You know what that is?
I know what momiji is. It's the maple tree. I don't know. Have I?
It's a souvenir from Hiroshima, and it's like a little cake in the shape of a momiji, a Japanese
Okay.
maple leaf that's filled with custard or something. And
Mm,
so something along those lines might be quite fun as
okay.
well. A
Ooh.
pastry brown ale. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, Casey, and thank you for walking me through the scene of the Asahi Super Dry drinking. If you, the listener, aren't already listening to the Bean Pod, then I heartily recommend that you do. Casey plays music, he talks about the weather, he gives garden updates, and basically everything you like about Sakamichi Nights, I stole from his podcast. So you should go and listen to it.
Yes, please do. And may I mention Ishikawa Summit to see as well? I'd be remiss. Uh, oh no, you don't
What's
want me to?
that?
It's another podcast that I do with my friend Joe, and you should listen to that one as well. It's about 3 times as long as the Bean Pod, so
If you
check it
can
out.
spare, 2.5 hours out of your day, why
Mhm.
not go back into the catalog and check out the episode that I guested on about 3 years ago? It was a good time.
Unfortunately, we stopped paying our hosting fee, and that episode is no longer available.
Oh no! Oh my
But
god! Okay,
get
disaster.
in touch. Get in touch, and I can give you a link to the Google Drive where
Uh,
it's now stored.
be ready for your inbox to be blown up with requests for that one.
Kaboom!
Thank you very much.
Kumayama100 at Hotmail.
Thank you very much for joining us, Casey. Thank you very much for listening. We will see you again next time.
Bye-bye.